Who could Virgil van Dijk be talking about? Let's start with the positive. He still thinks this could be a very special season. Could you see that?
Yes. I think the only way this becomes a special season is if Liverpool win the Champions League. I don't think winning the FA Cup is enough for a team who won the title the season before and then spent 450 million on new players. But Liverpool look a lot better in the Champions League than they do in the Premier League because the team is not fully equipped to go and win the Premier League right now. They can't handle the physicality that comes with the Premier League, but in the Champions League it's a different beast. And then once you get into the knockout stage, you get Anfield roaring on the front foot. Liverpool have a really good chance in the Champions League.
Daniel, do you think former players, top players, have a responsibility to the current generation?
Yeah, they do. I think I agree with him.
What's the top player though? Can we?
Well, if you don't think you won, then that's on you. I'm merely saying, I include myself in that. And I'm saying, for me, I think we do, because we've been the other side of it. We've experienced it. I experienced it as a player, and it don't feel good.
What impact did it have on you? Criticism and outside noise?
I mean, as you said, there's a difference between criticism, constructive criticism, and disrespect, and it depends on the level at which we believe, as the people on the other side, what we believe to be disrespectful, and how the player takes it is down to them. For me, I try to operate in a way of saying, like, how would I feel in this situation or in the moment? Because we've all been there, and I agree with him. We've all been there. We've all faced highs, lows in different moments within our careers, and it's important for us to give people the nuance, what it feels like to be in the dressing room, what it feels like to be when you're low, when you've had injuries, all of those things. Those are the perspectives that we all have shared throughout our careers. So I do agree with him. We have a duty to the next generation, not just the current players, but the players after them as well. And how we go about that, everybody's different. So.
Well, there's your man there. You criticised me when I was at Villa. At Villa, I had an absolute stinker. It was against Liverpool. I think we lost 6-0. And you said I wouldn't sign any of the Villa players.
Did anyone sign you?
No. No, there's a couple of things. But I think, it was tongue-in-cheek. I think he's got a point. But I think because his standards have been so high and then they fell off, then people are going to criticise. I don't think we intentionally try to disrespect. I never do anyway. I never go personal. But for where Liverpool were last season, winning the league, to where they are now, we try to be constructive.
Nobody likes to be criticised. But talking about he mentioned the word top players, but the really good players are usually their biggest critics anyway. You criticise yourself for your performances. And we were praising Liverpool all last season. Liverpool outstanding, absolutely brilliant. But when this time of the season, when you're 17 points worse off than the league leaders, then you're going to be criticised. I think you have to suck it up. Yeah, I think there's always worry if it gets personally. I can see players getting upset. But when you're criticising Liverpool's team for being a bit open, or the amount of games they've lost, the way they lost at Bournemouth recently, guess what? You're going to get criticised. Because last year when you're doing really well and you're celebrating 5-6 games to go and you're going off to Ibiza for weeks and you're going, you lay off the players a little bit, that even though you mightn't like it, because you're turning up and you're winning the league. But when you're not and you're so far off it, like they were a number of years ago, I've said it and I'll say it again, they've been really bad champions, really bad in terms of the league. Yeah, they're still in Europe and the FA Cup, whatever, but in their league performances, they are going to be criticised because they're so far off it. It's very hard to win the league. It's harder to win it back to back. But when you're so many points off the top team, you are going to be criticised.
You accept that, Jamie? They've been bad champions?
Yes. Roy said that 4 or 5 years ago, didn't you, on the last one? And I didn't agree with that. And the reason I say that at the time, Liverpool had I think 4 centre-backs out. They had kids at the back. But I think when you're saying it this season, Roy, I totally agree with you. Let's not forget that what Liverpool did in the summer wasn't just to sort of, strengthen the squad. It was to put themselves in a position to do what City have done the last few years, where you end up winning 3 leagues in 5 years. Something like that. It wasn't a case of, we're just happy with 1 league title, because, as I said, what City had done, what Manchester United had done before, maybe what Chelsea had done, that this has almost felt the time. Liverpool supporters I felt it in the summer, this is our time to go on and sort of dominate the league for the next 3 or 4 years, and that hasn't happened. So, as I said,
if you win the league and the following year you're struggling to get into the Champions League position, which obviously is the top 5, then that is a big drop off. That is on the players. There'll obviously be, we argued a few weeks ago, there'll obviously stuff gone on and you're waiting for new players to settle in. There can be injuries, but that's all part of the challenge of being a big football club. And again, when we do Liverpool games, Liverpool one of the biggest clubs in the world. So part of their challenge is to deal with them challenges, and they've not done it very well.
So is that criticism justified right now, Daniel?
Which criticism?
Criticism that we're talking about of Liverpool as bad champions.
Well, again,
be 17 points off.
we talked about the circumstances, the injuries that they've had to deal with, off the field stuff that everybody's well aware of. There's mitigating circumstances that are at play here. So whilst I do agree, the money being spent, the expectations of the fan base and people within the club would have been, okay, we can kick on here, but it's not worked out that way. That's just the reality of the situation. So if you want to look at the blanket statement of, are they bad champions? Well, yeah, if they don't win it again, you are bad champions. The thing for me in terms of the criticism, I think there's a difference again between criticising the team and to what Virgil was talking about being personal. Those are things like get rid of players. No, but hold on, but getting rid of players and, you know, he's not good enough for this and things like that. That's not. I don't know if that's our call to. I don't know if that's what
bad champion if they're fighting for second or third spot and they're putting Arsenal under huge pressure week in week out. But to be 17 points off, that's a huge drop off. That's not a little drop off. Listen, it could be worse by the end of the season. That's my issue. I know it's hard to win a league title. It's harder to win it back to back. But when you're so far off it, that's my issue. Not that they're not winning the league, but to be so far off it.
Second place is first last though, isn't it? You know, at the end, right? At the end, is we could talk about, unless you win the league the next year, to me, you're a bad champion. It doesn't matter if you finish second, you don't win it. Like, I mean, come on.
We can reflect a little bit more with lots of time after the game today, and maybe Liverpool can make very positive noises here by beating Manchester. Good afternoon, welcome along to Anfield ahead of a brilliant day of sport for you. We're here keeping you company all the way through till 8 o'clock and talking about, as Vince Lombardi was, competitive men. We've assembled four of the most competitive: Jamie Carragher, Daniel Sturridge, Micah Richards and Roy Keane. Great day ahead, Roy, and very much looking forward to this contest here at Anfield later. But how do you see it? Do you think that for Manchester City they have to win to keep the title race alive?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, obviously we're running out of games. Arsenal obviously having another big win yesterday, scoring goals, another clean sheet. So yeah, putting the pressure back on City, and of course Liverpool have lost their way a little bit this year in terms of their league form. And they'll be worried about obviously missing on that Champions League. So a big game for both clubs, yeah.
Must win, Micah.
Must win. I'm saying it now. This is league-defining weekend. If City lose, I think it's all over. If they can stay within 6 points, they've got the game in April as well. Man City were to win that and go 3 points towards the end of the season. Man City are really good at this part of the season towards the end. But I'm excited. I can feel something today. Man City have played well in the last 2 games. Newcastle were very good. Spurs in the first half were very good also. Defensively, frailties, but going forward, the combinations, they're there.
We talk about City being good at this time of the season, and it has traditionally been a time where Manchester City have come alive. You look at their 8 title-winning seasons. Look at this from the last 14 games. 18-19, they took maximum points. I'm not sure that 30 would be enough for City this time round. That would leave them on 77. Daniel, do you think this current Manchester City team has it in them to put on a run of this kind of type that could really threaten Arsenal?
I think they do. But today is a big moment for them, for confidence and for momentum. It's not I wouldn't say it's a season-defining game, but for confidence and momentum it is, because psychologically you're going into the other games knowing that you've got to build this run, and I think today puts a downer on the camp. It makes you feel as if, look man, it's a massive task now guys, and we're behind the 8 ball a little bit. So I think, you know, when you look at them, you look at the squad they have, Haaland's not at his best at the moment, so you imagine that's going to turn and he's going to become who we know him to be, which is an out-and-out goal scorer weekly. They've made some very good signings. They're getting players back fit. So all in all, you know, today is a big game for them, but momentum and confidence is the most important thing for that Manchester City team.
Mike has gone big early, must win. But would it be a shock if City did win?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if City win today. That's going to go everywhere, isn't it? No, but notoriously, Man City find it difficult at this stadium. Pep Guardiola does, and far better Manchester City teams than what they've got right now. So, as I said, Liverpool normally do well in this fixture, and I think with how Liverpool sort of have looked in sort of the last couple of games at home, you know, a European game and against Newcastle, scoring plenty of goals, starting to look a little bit more exciting. And Manchester City are going to play a game today that is not the one that Arne Slot keeps talking about is giving Liverpool problems in terms of set pieces, low blocks. So I think it'd be a great game, it'd be an open game, and that'll suit Liverpool, and it'll suit City as well. I don't think Liverpool are great defensively. I think we saw that in the first half an hour against Newcastle. Very fortunate only to be 1-0 down, Liverpool. So it should be a really good game, but yeah, Liverpool normally do well in this fixture.
If they don't win, Micah, could it actually go the other way for Manchester City, given that Manchester United have won? Look at me like that. Man United have won 4 out of 4. Chelsea, the same.
I mean, anything can happen, but no, I mean, to come to Liverpool is always difficult. I think last time the one here was 2021, so we know Jamie's right.
Including that one?
Well, yeah, we're including everything, because it's there for the stats to...
But it's relevant, is it not? The fans weren't here.
Yeah, but they still won, didn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I do.
But in terms of... Man City are not going to buckle because the standards have been so high. Are Man City what they were a couple of seasons ago? Probably not, but I've just seen signs of Man City building some momentum. If Gay comes back into the side today, hopefully he's fine. I think we're going to see a terrific game today.
When was the last time we saw Man City win a big game away from home? You always, when looking back at the last few years, you always felt City in their prime when they were really at it. You never bet against them. But at this moment in time, you're looking defensively, there's still huge question marks. Yeah, still nice on the ice, still obviously will cause problems going forward. But defensively, yeah, you'd be worried from. But
you talk about momentum. They've won 1 and 6 in the Premier League. So I mean, they're not building momentum right now. And I think if City don't win today, I agree with Roy. Most of the lads that the title's gone, that's over. They become now in the fight for Champions League. If Man City lose here, they're only 3 points ahead of Manchester United. Do you know what I mean? And if Liverpool win today, that they're not a million miles away from Manchester United as well. So then you'd almost become the top team of the Champions League race. You're not chasing Arsenal.
I just think more in terms of the way Man City have been playing. If you watched them against Spurs in the first half, they was exceptional. Again against Newcastle, 3-0 at half time. They was playing some really good football. I think the question today is, how does Haaland fit into what they want to do? So historically, Man City win the ball back up high and very quickly. With Haaland, it doesn't seem to be working. When they played with Semenyo, and you did the game as well, Mamouche, the difference in terms of them getting the ball back quickly and pressing high and the rotation, it was like watching Man City of old. Like I said, the conundrum...
So would you put Haaland on the bench?
No, I'm just saying in terms of when Haaland will be introduced into the game. If you want coming to Anfield and it's ferocious, maybe it is, time to put Haaland and introduce it in the second half when the game opens up.
I mean, it's obviously, I don't imagine Haaland to be on the bench personally. What I will say is when you look at the signings they've made in Semenyo and Guehi, they've had joy playing against Liverpool as well as here at Anfield. So I think they're coming in with an edge to them, knowing that Liverpool are beatable. But look, it's a team game at the end of the day, but you'd expect that the players have to have big performances today if they want to get the job done here.
Mike has turned up, he's gone big, must win, Haaland on the bench.
Mikel Arteta's work at Arsenal is being viewed in an even brighter light after the recent coaching shakeups elsewhere. With Chelsea parting ways with Enzo Maresca and Manchester United moving on from Ruben Amorim, the contrast is hard to miss. Arsenal has kept moving forward under Arteta, giving him time through difficult stretches, and now seeing the payoff as the club pushes again in the Premier League title race. It also raises a bigger question about strategy. While Chelsea and United are changing direction again, Arteta has been in place for more than 6 years, outlasting a long list of managers across those two clubs in that span. That stability has become part of the story, and it was a major talking point on the Seeing Red podcast with Tom Canton and John Cross. Beyond reacting to Amorim's dismissal and breaking down wins over Aston Villa and Bournemouth, plus Manchester City's loss to Chelsea, the conversation kept returning to one core idea: structure. Not just who is the coach, but how much power that coach has, and whether the club is built to support a long-term project. Cross pointed to Arsenal as a rare example of patience turning into real strength. He argued that Arsenal's willingness to back Arteta through the messy early phases helped create the stable position they're in now, and that this kind of time and support investment is what can turn a club into something truly solid. Canton's response was sharp and honest. Arteta's arc, he said, has almost become a problem for other clubs, because it tempts them to keep coaches they probably shouldn't. But at the same time, it's still the best example of what can happen when you hire the right person and actually give them time. And that time wasn't smooth. The discussion highlighted how Arsenal could easily have pulled the plug early. 2 8th-place finishes, then 5th, missing out on the Champions League, and a Europa League semi-final exit to Unai Emery's Villarreal. Any of those moments could have pushed a club into panic mode. Instead, the argument is that Arsenal recognized the bigger reality. Arteta didn't have the resources to compete at the required level right away. The squad needed a rebuild. The roster needed to be refreshed. That's where the comparison to Chelsea and United becomes even more pointed. The podcast suggested that recruitment and decision-making structure are often what determine whether a coach survives. If signings don't land, results suffer. And if a coach doesn't have enough influence, or the club isn't aligned behind a clear plan, it becomes much easier for things to collapse. In other words, giving time only works if the coach is empowered to shape the team in a way that matches the vision. Cross also emphasized that Arteta's situation stood out because he pushed to be a true manager, not just a head coach. The idea is simple. Top coaches want a real say in the build, and they want the club to match what they were promised when they took the job. The discussion even pointed to how Arteta survived a low moment, like the home loss to Burnley, because the club stayed behind him. And in that period, with fan pressure affected by the COVID-era environment, Arsenal were able to hold their nerve instead of reacting emotionally. Meanwhile, the big unknowns now shift back to Chelsea and Manchester United. Who replaces Amorim? And how will the next chapter look at Chelsea? The answers may come sooner than people expect. But for Arsenal, the reality stays the same. They're stable, they're moving forward, and they're still in the title chase, while others are starting over again. And that contrast can shape how people judge every manager in the league. Because when two massive clubs hit the reset button again, it forces the same question Cross raised on the show. Is the quick switch actually fixing the problem, or just delaying the real work? The bigger takeaway from the discussion is that time isn't a magic solution by itself. It only becomes valuable when the club's structure supports the plan. And when the coach has the influence to push the squad in the direction he believes it needs to go. That's why the distinction between head coach and manager kept coming up. The podcast point is that if a coach is expected to own the results, he usually wants a meaningful say in the decisions that shape those results. And if he doesn't get that, patience alone won't save him. That's also where Arteta's early struggles get reframed. Those finishes and setbacks could have become a reason to panic. Instead, they became evidence of why alignment matters, because Arsenal chose to treat them as part of a build, not a final verdict. And once the squad was reshaped the way the club believed it needed to be, the results started to reflect that long-term approach. So the repercussions aren't just about Arsenal looking stable, it's about how stability changes your margin for error. When you don't reset every year, you're not constantly starting from zero. You're building on decisions, learning from setbacks, and keeping a clearer identity. For Chelsea and Manchester United, the immediate consequence is obvious. They're changing direction again, which means the next appointment carries even more weight. Because every new coach isn't just judged on results. He's judged on whether the club is finally giving him the structure and authority that the role demands. That's why the question at the end matters so much. Who will replace Amorim? And how will Liam Rosenior do at Chelsea? Because those answers will test the exact theme the show kept returning to. Time, support, structure, and control. And for Arsenal, it's a different kind of pressure. Stability doesn't guarantee trophies, but it does keep you in the fight longer. And right now, while others restart, Arsenal get to stay focused on what they're already doing, chasing the Premier League title.